So starting with CCD number 20. So this is the soffit near door 204 in the second floor of the 1910 building. So essentially, this is to box up some diagonal bracing that was, in the original design drawings, and it's, to be honest with you, it's a bit of an eyesore. So this was, presented as, to make the entrance, the cased opening, basically squared up and install a soffit. Obviously, the place has been cleaned and, fully painted, and we're pretty much ready to go at this point. So this is the labor and materials to install that soffit box and clean up that cased opening. CCD 21, this is some changes to the interior signage colors. The project architect presented the bid set of interior signage, basically black and white. The the building committee had voted to change up the colors to match some of the wall finishes. So essentially, this is the delta to change up those colors on the signage in the interior of the building. Dave, let me
Wait,
stop.
sorry, let's not leave 21 yet. I'm not sure if you're moving on.
No, yeah, I was gonna ask you if you want me to stop at any of these, please feel free to let me know.
Well, let's go through. So, Robin, are you okay with number 20, which is the soffit near door 204 for $2,609.99?
Yeah, and I just want to confirm that this is just the construction cost and it doesn't include any of the time delay, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Well, what was the time delay put in for CCD number 20?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I believe 2 days. Yes, 2 days time extension.
So these are the things that, when we are wrestling at the end of this whole process,
Will be part of the wrestling.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the next one, if I remember, the interior signage, the contractor put in for 21 days.
Correct.
What was their logic?
Essentially the timing. We're at towards the end of the project here, and it would be the time to get the signage in prior to inspections. Not so much time to install. Time to install is about a day to 2 days maximum, but just lead time to get this, since it's a custom color, was their essentially reasoning behind that.
Well,
So is this a requirement for an occupancy permit? I mean, do
So
we
you
have?
do need signage at some areas, mainly the restrooms, any means of egress, entrance to the building, essentially for life safety, which we do have, and we're going to have temporary signage at the elevator rooms, the elevator itself, and just showing some egress maps. So we'll have that on a temporary basis until the signage comes in.
Well, since we're going to be on a temporary basis, and that will get us our temporary occupancy permit and then the permanent, what was the amount in the contract for the interior signs?
I believe it was about around $15,000 in round numbers.
So my question for you, Igley, is if we were just to go with the temporary and back out of this and do it ourselves, that 21 days is a very expensive uncashed
Fine.
check.
Right.
And it makes the $2,400 pale in comparison, because 21 times 2,500 a day is something that I'm personally choking on. So if we were to pull this out and not approve it, go with temporary, can we just get the signs outside of the contractor?
So they are required to provide us signs, and we do have signs in the budget. You can't take out the entire that 15,000 essentially. This is essentially just a delta to change the colors, and we would have been installing signage at this point regardless. Completely understand. Yeah, 21 days, and I definitely don't agree with it myself. Which is the reason why we went this way. But I'm not sure if we can stick with temporary signage at this point in the project.
So it seems as though we need to just get the ball rolling on ordering the signage, because the
Correct.
longer we take, the longer
Correct.
they're
The
gonna
the
fight
signage
for
would
it.
have had to be fabricated anyways, whether it's a custom color or not.
So
They
none of
haven't
the
been
signs have been
fabricated.
fabricated.
I don't believe so, no, since we're changing the color up to it.
Are you allowed to actually contract the subcontractor and ask them, is there any time delay associated? Or is that not
It's
allowed?
not really standard practice.
That's all I wanted to know. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
But I struggle with this one, Robin, because we can get perfectly good signs, but the 2400 is not the issue. It's the whatever 2500 times 21 is.
Right, which isn't on here, so I think it's gonna be one of many.
Yeah, I mean that's a $52,500 point of dispute that the contractor is going to throw back at us.
Right. But is it really gonna delay the project by 21 days? I mean, that's something Igley could confirm.
Yeah, so what I can say with the 21 days, in order for the contractor to make a claim for a schedule extension for 21 days, this would have to be a critical path item, which it's really not. This is for it's not part of the critical path of the project. So when when the project essentially goes to whether it be litigation or negotiation, they would have to make that claim there, and that's when it would be decided. And this really isn't a critical path item.
Right, because to get an occupancy permit, we can put up temporary.
Correct.
And I would imagine there's a punch list, and this would just be one of the items on the punch list.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So how long is the manufacturer supposed to take? Order of magnitude.
Typically 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 weeks, excuse me, to get these signs fabricated and sent
Well,
out.
that's why the sooner we order them, the better.
Absolutely, but I'm just trying to make sure that it's not the contractor's not going to say, okay, I'm done. Argument's sake, on May 1st, and these things come in May 15th, and they're going to use that as a 15-day extension.
No, because we're already approving this at this point. They're going to be installing them.
So your confidence of this not causing an actual time delay is what?
I'm pretty confident.
Because you can
Throw a
put up
number out as
temporary
an
signs.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident this would not cause a time delay. I don't know if you want me to give you a percentage, but
what is it high? I mean,
yeah, it's pretty high. This
Okay.
would not cause a time delay.
So I'm on the fence, Robin, if you want to know the truth.
Well, Dave, we have to get the signs. From my perspective, it's, there are going to be a whole lot of things that we have to negotiate. It sounds as though the contractor really doesn't have a leg to stand on. We're going to order the signs. It's not going to delay the project. There is still there's going to be a punch list of things that they're going to have to do after you get the occupancy permit. This will just be one of those items. I mean, my issue is if we don't order it, it could be more of an issue.
Well, no, we would just go with the non-color change, and that's part of the existing contract.
Right, but then, you've spent $25 million on a building. And, I think at this point, I believe the building committee and everybody involved would like this color palette change. If we don't do the palette change now, it's going to cost us $20,000 for the signs if we want to do it later. Because we will already have the signs. And there's
Okay.
15,000 already in the budget.
So the question is, will the negotiation cost us more or less than 15,000? And no one's going to be able to give an answer to that. It's an unanswerable question at this time.
Right.
All right, I'll begrudgingly do that because
Okay.
it's again a CCD. But you see our concern, Igley.
Yep.
I mean the contractor is just adding time to everything, and it's a negotiation tactic as best we can tell.
Absolutely.
Um, please walk us through CCD 22, painting exterior of the hardy board for $4,034.50.
Yep, sure. So in the vestibule of the north and south vestibule of the building on the exterior side and along the pavilion patio area, we have some hardy board that is essentially not finished. It just needs to be field primed and painted. This was not called out in the contract documents and the drawings. So essentially, this cost is for the painter to come out and paint this the hardy board. We've reviewed this and it is a fair cost. Essentially, the painter is doing this at cost. He's not even charging us markup. So this one is pretty straightforward, but it's essentially
But
just
this is one that goes into the architect column.
yeah. Yep.
Okay. Same with the soffit near door 204.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Concrete sidewalk modification for $8,939.82, which is CCD 23.
Yep. So CCD 23, this is to modify the concrete sidewalk over on the south side of the building, the entrance way to the south side of the building, essentially to preserve one of the big pine trees that is currently there. When we laid out the concrete sidewalk, the grading that is leading up to that big pine tree is essentially too steep and the roots would be uncovered if you were to leave it like that because of the elevation change. So essentially, this is to remove a portion of that sidewalk and where the the bicycle rack is at the moment, and put that on a different portion of the concrete sidewalk, and have a more gradual elevation change and preserve the roots of that pine tree.
So the bike rack change that everyone has been discussing will be in addition to this.
The location of it, yeah.
Now, how about the cost?
The cost of the bike rack itself.
Yeah, and of moving it and installing it.
The cost of installing the bike rack is within the project budget. That's not this is just the cost to move essentially the concrete pad that it sits on. The concrete had already been poured for this one. And we decided to change it to accommodate the grade needed to preserve the tree roots.
Understood. Maybe I haven't been explaining myself well. So if we're going to install the bike rack, we have to install new concrete somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's the 8,900.
No, that's my whole point. That moving this to save this pine tree is going to be this 8,900 and moving the bike rack and pouring that new concrete. So Igley, what we really need to know is what is the total cost of this total change,
The total cost is 8,900, Dave.
including the bike rack
Yes.
relocation and pouring that new cement.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because my understanding is the bike rack hasn't been installed yet.
It has not been installed yet. Yep.
Right. So it's just the concrete
The
pad
concrete.
that,
Well, to get that removed.
right.
To get it removed and repoured and then essentially backfill that grading.
Okay, so there's going to be no other costs associated with this whatsoever.
Nope. This is a lump sum.
Okay. Thank you. You good, Robin?
Yep.
Okay. The foundation waterproof painting.
Yep. So CCD 24, this is to paint the foundation, the rubble foundation around the 1910 building. It's currently got some waterproofing membrane, rolled on membrane that is on it. It's a very light color, standard color from the factory. Essentially, this is what comes with the product. And this is time and material cost for the painter to paint it a custom color. and essentially match the rest of the exterior of the building. We've presented this as a not to exceed amount. When we originally got the pricing from the painter, the grading around the building hadn't really been finalized. So currently it's a little bit less square footage that needs to be painted. So the painter has agreed to do this work on a time and materials basis, and we feel pretty confident it's going to come in under this number, but this would be a not to exceed amount.
So just to make sure we're all on the same page, Robin, this is the white kind of stripe near the ground.
Yeah.
It's maybe 3 feet down to, I don't know, a foot, as it goes around the building. It just 2 years ago we had our house painted for about the same number. The entire house, primer, 3 coats. It just seems like a lot.
This is prevailing wage, unfortunately. That's
Okay, well, do you have any thoughts on that one, Robin?
You know, again, we spent 25 million bucks on a building, and I guess my question is, at the time, we didn't think that the paint should match the building? I mean, is this a change that suddenly we realize that the paint color is?
So there wasn't originally a paint color specified for this area. It's just a foundation, essentially waterproofing membrane. And it's a standard color, essentially, sort of like a primer that you would get from a paint store. So there really wasn't anything that is specified for this area.
So this is something that the architect left off as well?
Yeah, I mean, can our staff just paint it at a later date if we want to paint it? I mean, I would just leave this off. If we can get an occupancy permit without it and it looks fine, I leave it to you, Dave. I would just maybe at a later date, we can paint it.
I mean, Igley, it just seems like a lot of money to paint 1 to 3 feet around the building with a coat of paint.
So if I may say, the scope of this is essentially two coats of paint. They do have a lot of prep to do around the building. And it's about 3 man days to actually complete the work itself. You're essentially hand painting it over rubble foundation. So the scope is, it may not seem like a lot of square footage, but it is significant. Um, but essentially, yeah, this is a cosmetic change.
So so just so that I'm clear,
Sure.
there is currently waterproof paint already on the foundation.
Yes,
So this is not waterproofing the foundation.
this is not
This is purely cosmetic to change the color.
Yes, but it is essentially exterior grade foundation paint. It's just tintable to custom color.
Dave, I leave it to you and the building committee. I mean, if the waterproof paint is there, if it's not an eyesore, I don't know.
Well, again, I choke Igley on, you say that a lot of prep needs to be done. It was just painted with a waterproofing paint. That's when all the prep needed to be done.
I agree, but you still have to essentially mask off the areas that are unpainted and clean up the area. This was painted in the fall, the waterproofing. So essentially it's been around, the winter time, and then dirt and dust and things like that have gone onto the actual foundation. So there is a good amount of prep that needs to happen.
Why don't we tackle number 25 and then come back to this?
Okay.
Because on number 25, this is infilling voids at the 1910 windows on a time and material. And it was PCO 72. And Igley.
So this is an overrun basically from PCO 72?
No, so this one actually had some time impact associated with it, which is why we decided to go with a CCD on this. Essentially, this was to infill some voids at the windows that we cut out in the 1910 building. Um, Essentially, we cut them out into the masonry, and the mason had to go in and infill the jambs of each window into the masonry. So there's quite a bit of time that they had to go and cut each single brick and fill around, I believe, 6 windows in the
I guess,
1910.
I'm choking because I'm going back to PCO number 20 and 24. We've already done this. We actually paid them to modify the window openings to make them ready to receive the new windows. And they had to chip out and build back up.
That was on the interior side of the building that for PCO 24, I believe. This was for the exterior side facing Springdale Ave. I
Oh,
guess the way that it was specified in the PCO was just in the PCO 24, if I remember correctly. I don't have it in front of me, but it was for to build it back up from the on the inside portion of the 1910 building.
so they did all the window work and they only did it for the inside and didn't do it for the outside?
I don't have the PCO in front of me to confirm that. I apologize.
Is this a critical path item?
This work has already been done. Um, yeah, this was done on time and materials basis.
Again, I'm going to need, before we approve it tonight, then I'm going to need you to go back and tell me why we already paid to have the window openings chiseled out and fixed and then infilled to fit the windows. And now we're being asked to pay another $3,031 to do the exact same thing, but from the outside. So, I mean, when you do a window, you do the window. You don't say, well, I'm only going to fix the brick on the inside, but I'm going to leave a gap on the outside.
Fully agree with you. Let me see if I can try to find this PCO.
Dave, maybe what we do is let's approve the ones we've agreed to in 24 and 25, because it's unfortunate nobody's here from the building committee. And so long as these are not critical path, maybe we could get some input from the building committee. And I would be happy to do a special meeting to approve these with the additional input.
Ditto. I think I would
Okay.
feel much more comfortable.
Yeah,
And
me
then we're
too.
not saying no, we're saying we need more info, and we do.
Right, right, right. And it's just unfortunate that Dick couldn't make it this evening.
Correct.
I think it being right before the Easter weekend, people had planned, so
No worries.
I
I
would,
totally get it.
right, so I suggest that 24 and 25, we set aside and we get more information. And I am very happy, given where we are with this project, to have a special meeting if we need to approve this. I just
Yes.
don't want to hold it up, but I also feel uncomfortable, and Igley is stepping in is pinch hitting as well. So, let's give the guy a break and wait until the regulars are around, and I'm sure they can dig out the information and give us the answers we need.
Robin, if I can, I was able to pull up some information on PCO 24 that Dave is referring to, but I'm happy to share. If not, we can certainly table it.
Well, I think what you're hearing, Igley, is we need to table it and have a full discussion, get our comfort level back up to where it needs to be, and go from there. And if it otherwise, we can approve everything that we've discussed. And if I did the total right, the 755352 would be reduced to 56006 spot 91.
No, you have to back out the 24,065 for the furniture, right?
Oh,
So it's
I thought that was a total.
31,941.91.
31,941.91.
Yep.
Correct. Okay, good. we're in
Ah, I
agreement.
gotta keep you honest, Dave.
Yeah, you can say someone's got to. Uh,
All right. So, so then I'm gonna move to approve the community center building project change orders and construction change directives as follows. What will be approved is PCO 073 for door 102 dimension change, 097 for additional costs for overtime for the state elevator inspector, the colonial fence at 4 Whiting Road, the wood fence stain, the colonial fence, chain link fence at 63 Center Street, and there were 2 adjustments for those. We're also going to approve CCD 020, which is the soffit near door 204. 021, which is the interior signage colors. 022, the painting of the exterior hardy board. 023, the concrete sidewalk modification. The total of these change orders is $31,941.91.
second,
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
Dave Haviland.
Excellent. And then Dave, we'll do a follow-up on the ones. Well, Dick already sent a memo on the furniture and the other 2.
Correct. When I speak with Dick tomorrow, I'll just let him know where we are and if we could, what we were looking for and going from there.
Excellent. All right.
So,
Okay. So thank you, Igley, and you're more than welcome to stay for the next items, or if you'd like to go have dinner, we understand that as
I
well.
was going to say, so have a good night, Igley.
Good night, guys. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank
Take
you for
care.
coming.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is a discussion regarding and potential vote regarding the current drought level in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and our bylaw, which requires that we vote. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So probably a very long story short, the board will recall last year, you voted a couple times as the drought came into effect and changed over the fall. Your last vote was at the end of October to declare a level 1 drought following the DEP declaration. Over the winter, they actually moved us to a level 2. But there was no need for us to take any action as it's winter. There's no outdoor watering. That those sort of issues weren't existing. And further, the board suggested, and we followed through, to remove the signage that we had throughout town over the winter. Because again, even though there was a drought, there was some concern, rightfully so, that people stop seeing the signs because if they're not applicable, and people just get used to them being there all the time. So that being said, earlier this month, the state voted to reduce the drought to a level 1, which again is where you last voted. So that's still what stands here in Dover. But I thought, given that it's spring again, people are going to start thinking about already watering their lawns. It was appropriate for you to have this at a public meeting to vote to reaffirm that we are in a level 1 drought and that you are still implementing the restriction of watering 1 day per week. With your vote, we would, again, remind the public, use social media, put the signs back up that we are in a drought. And then, if necessary, the bylaw does also provide enforcement mechanisms. I will note, and I think it was in your packet, the state agency that makes these determinations is meeting again at the beginning of May to reevaluate. So it is possible at that time they could make a decision to either continue the drought, increase it, reduce it to nothing. And obviously we come back to you at that time to follow their guidance.
Right. And their meeting is on May 7th. So the one thing I do ask is if on May 7th, they vote to move us back to normal levels, I just ask that the signs be taken down timely. Because, I think I don't want people just to get used to the signs because then they just don't work anymore. So I think, we just need to take them down more timely as I hate to say this because it's sort of a pun, but this is a fluid situation. So
Oh, God.
I know that was a really bad
Very
joke.
proud of yourself, aren't you?
But for now, I think since we are in a level 1 drought again, for us, this bylaw is about education, so we should remind people. Probably not a good thing just to stick in the newsletter again, Chris, just to remind people, with the spring approaching, we're still in at a level 1 mild drought and what that means. And, maybe we could remind everybody about different ways that one can conserve water. And also let them know that the drought committee is going to reconvene on May 7th and the status may change then. But for now, this is the status.
Well, I have two observations. One, we're right next to the severe drought where that borders us on the west. So they're basically doing it by county, I believe. And if Winston Churchill will forgive me, it has rained a lot, but there has not been a lot of rain. If you think of all the rainy days we've had, I was watching the weather report, and the most we've gotten is 1.4 inch, and the next one was like 0.19 inch. So we've had very little actual water fall. And so I don't know what's going to happen in May. I mean, frankly, I hope we get real rainstorms at night for an inch and have it occur a lot to recharge. But we should go after what the state is saying, and the state is saying we're in a mild drought, and I agree with
Right.
Robin. We should put up the signs, but as soon as it's over, we need to take them down.
Right.
Or they just people get used to them and they don't read them and don't pay any
Right, you
attention.
just ignore them.
Right, if they're up all the time. So
Yeah. No, I think that's great, and I think in the past, traditionally, we've waited until you voted to reverse it. But I think if your vote tonight is to declare it, and then at the end just add to remove the signs should the state
Okay, I'll do that.
reduce
Perfect.
That's a good idea.
Perfect.
All right. So I'm going to move to reaffirm that the town of Dover is in a level 1 mild drought and that all non-essential water use as defined by Mass DEP be limited to 1 day per week before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. And I also hereby, I don't know what the word is, move direct the town that should the Commonwealth status change to there being no drought at their May 7th meeting, that the signs can be immediately removed by the highway department.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
Excellent. All right, thank you. I am expecting it that it might be reversed, but who knows?
Let's hope, but
Right. But
that's
it
above
may
our pay
be
grade.
that we're back a month later, so.
Right.
Did I read that today NOAA had 300 people get laid off? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I didn't read that, but I know they were looking to do that.
No, it wasn't laid off. They expect them to accept the government's buyout offer.
Hmm.
That's what it is. So, all right.
Okay, so the next item of business is for the BOS, for which would be us, to approve the annual town election warrant. And as you all know, May 19th, 2025, following town meeting is the annual town election. And what it does is it lists all open positions in the town of Dover for elected officials. We need to mail the warrant out to residents on Friday, April 25th, which is also Arbor Day. And in preparation for the election, which will be held in the Great Hall between 7 and 8 p.m. on that day. So I don't know if you took a look at the annual warrant
For the elections,
for
just
the elections. Yeah.
it's the same every year, right?
Right, right.
So I mean,
Well, yeah, no, so it does change a little bit.
The date changes and the positions that are open changes, right?
Correct,
yeah.
correct.
But
Um,
I mean, I've looked at it and I have no issues. So I'm assuming that smarter people like Felicia have looked at this and she agrees.
Right.
Yep. She agrees. It's also included as Article 32 in the warrant. There's just the only things I'll just note, because they are not always typical, is one.
Is the constable.
Yeah, so the constable in 2023 annual town meeting voted to stagger the term. So that's just trying to explain that. We worked with Nina to try to get the right language. We hope that did the trick for people. But essentially, in layman's term, it's going to be a popularity contest. Person with the most vote gets 3 years, second 2 years, and last place gets the 1 year.
And let me tell you, if it doesn't follow whose name listed is first, second, and third, then I would be very surprised.
And then the other thing it's a little different this year is you'll see there's two members of the planning board. One's a 5-year, which is a full term. One's a 2-year, which is to fill the remaining of the vacant term. So that's why that looks a little different this year. But otherwise, it's fairly standard.
All right, so I move to approve the May 19th, 2025 annual town election warrant.
Second,
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
I, Dave Haviland.
Excellent. And the next item of business is to review the annual town meeting warrant articles. So the annual town meeting warrant listing the articles to be voted on at town meeting has been mailed to all residents. The warrant committee actually made a few changes to what we refer to as our blue book. And this year, residents will find it's much easier on the eyes. It's 8.5 by 11. And so it does make things a little easier to read, especially the numbers. So I do commend them for doing that. Warrant committee pulled together all of the regular schedules. It shows the budget, both the operating budget and the capital budget. Each warrant article, the warrant committee has also put forward their recommendations, and there is an explanation of each. Every resident or every home in Dover will get one copy of the blue book mailed to them. We urge you to come to town meeting and to bring your blue book to town meeting. I believe there are some extra copies available. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, at the
Yeah, so Mona can correct me, but we do have some extras, and then we also, I believe, we collect from the
we
post office fund that
recycle,
we
right?
returned.
Yeah.
Right, yes, we have them available. People forget them or don't have them.
Right.
So I learned this at the warrant committee last night, right at the beginning. We were chatting about it. We print 2,370 blue book copies, but that is just to mail out to the town. But for all the copies at the townhouse and that we bring to town meeting,
They're
get from the
recycled.
post office.
Right.
They literally have that separate bin and just bring them all to town meeting. So at least we get two uses out of them at a minimum. So
Right. I mean, one of the things we talked about at Warrant is that after town meeting to put together a task force to actually look at the blue book and revamp it. I mean, some of the stuff, it always comes down to the wire. So one of the things we talked about is having the goal of putting a skeleton together by the end of September. That you won't have the warrant articles, but certain warrant articles are there every single year. And then looking at some of the tables and the reports that are in there and rewriting them now, and just so that all you need to do is repopulate them with some of the numbers. And making sure that it makes sense to continue reporting things the way we are reporting them, because it's not an easy read, the blue book.
No,
And as part of this task force, we also want to look at ways of maybe going the route of the town report and having copies in a PDF form on the website so that people can access it there. Because a lot of people just don't want paper copies anymore. But we'll work, Mike will put together a task force. Chris, maybe you could be on the task force and we could just look at ways to simplify and streamline it.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to join.
Okay, great.
that would be terrific. It does make sense to see if we can, if nothing else, save the paper. But there's requirements if memory serves. We don't have to go over them now, but the state has certain requirements on what we need to put out and who we need to send it to. So within those bounds, absolutely, let's look at simplifying this. And I love the idea of a template. If we are trying to convey certain pieces of information each year, why not get it in a nice format and do it every year? I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, or the warrant committee doesn't have to reinvent the wheel every year.
Right. No, I completely agree. So, and the issue always is the pulling together the blue book comes down to the wire. So you start reading it and going, oh my God, this is horribly written. I should change it, but you just can't. So, and one of the questions they asked at Warrant, Chris and Mike, is how do other towns do it? So, I don't know if there's software that you could use that makes it easier. So, those are all things we can look at, but let's do it over the summer before it gets crazy.
Right. And also the printer, I guess our printer is the same person we've been using for 25 years. And we might be able to find someone with a technology merge capability with what we have. That's a little bit better, because I know a lot of it. Robin, you lived through this.
Well, I was reminiscing that back in the day when I was in Warrant, I went over there to make sure that changes happened. We would sit there because we would come down to the wire and I go, this needs to be a 5. This needs to be, and it would get changed on the spot. That's what we did for fun.
There's got to be a better way.
Right.
So,
Right.
all right.
Okay, so there is no motion there, but really a big thank you to the Warrant Committee, especially their chair, Woody Weiss. He really did a lot of this. He says he's read the Blue Book too many times. And it's not an easy read. Okay, so the next item is the fiscal year 26 budget discussion, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike.
Yeah, so this similar to the warrant articles, there isn't anything specific, but we just usually include this on every agenda leading up to town meeting. I don't believe, and Chris, you can correct me, there hasn't been changes since we last looked at it, with the exception of, I think we noted the permitting software, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So, I didn't have anything specific, but just wanted it as an opportunity in case things changed or if questions have come up and things like that.
So, I guess I'll take this opportunity. So what we started doing, I think 2 years ago, was coordinating the selectmen and the warrant committee presentations for town meeting. So I talked to Woody about I will meet with him sometime next week so we can begin to pull that together. What we've done that's worked really well is the selectmen's presentation is really more high level, strategic, looking out, whereas warrant committee will focus on the budget. And we got a lot of compliments last year on the format that was used. So I'm going to update those presentation slides and then we'll go from there. I think the presentation for warrant would be really similar to what Cam did last year, which was just explain the large movements within the budget. And then from a Board of Selectmen standpoint is just remind the town about our goals and objectives, what we've accomplished, because I think we really have accomplished a lot in the 3 years we started this, in spite of some of the challenges that we've had along the way. And so just remind the town what we've been doing, what we plan to do in the future, and the challenges we face as a town over the next few years.
If I may just beg that you put into that, and I know I'll get a chance to look at it, but Chris and Mike's good work on municipal electric aggregation as well as the online permitting.
No, and I definitely will, and I'm gonna try keep it bullet points. And my goal is to try actually do it this weekend and send it out to everybody to take a look at and begin to edit. Make sure I'm not missing things.
Great.
The other thing I feel as though we need to touch on is the MBTA Communities Act and just touch on, the town needs to be compliant, sort of high level, what are the ramifications as we know today for not being compliant, and what's our plan to roll it out and educate the town. It's again just another opportunity to follow on what the planning board has been doing.
That's a great idea, a preamble and
Right,
let everyone know.
right. All 175 people that attend town meeting.
Well, we start with 177. Now, come on. So,
All right.
So I have one quick question for you, Mike. When do you do your Council on Aging presentation?
April, I'm sorry, April, I think it's the 29th or 30th. It's that Tuesday or Wednesday.
Excellent, because the feedback we got from your presentation to COA last year was outstanding. You answered everyone's questions
Right.
and just gave such comfort that I'm glad you're doing it again. I'll just leave it there.
Thank you. No, that's great. I'm excited to do it again. Appreciate that.
So that's all I have on budget.
Okay. And Mike, it rolls into you. 1.7 is the update on goals.
Yeah. So
I'm assuming you're going to talk about the permitting.
yeah. So, it's I just wanted to say, we're all working really hard this time of year to get to town meeting, but we're also still trying to move a lot of these initiatives forward. So I'm really appreciative to Chris and to some of the department heads that are working on these items, because we are actually getting a lot of it done. So I'll just briefly touch on some of them. One is, our public communication and outreach, which continues to be really great. We have some additional assistance right now on a temporary basis from a part-time staff member who's helping Chris put together the newsletter, which is taking a little burden off Chris, which is great. Chris and I just met today, and I hope I'm not stealing something from you, Chris, but we're looking to implement a slightly different way to present the newsletter starting maybe as early as next month. So, right now you have to click to open a PDF. And this is going to be actually just built into the email, like probably most you receive from like a constant contact type. So
Right.
it's just one less barrier to people seeing the materials right in front of them, which I think will be huge. And we've just seen a real big increase in the number of subscribers. And I think now we'll even see more people actually reading the newsletter, which will be terrific. We are getting closer to sharing with you a draft of the updated website. I got a sneak peek of it today, and it looks really awesome. And it's just going to be a lot more user friendly. So that continues to move. And then Chris has also finalized our communications plan that was done through the Collins Center. So, once some of this dies down, I believe Chris called it a road show. He'll be ready to go out and start talking and presenting that plan and how the plan works and how information gets funneled through us to get into the newsletter and to get out to social media and
I love that.
encouraging boards and committees to participate in that. So that's really exciting. Online permitting, yeah. So really excited to have received $100,000 or just over $100,000 grant from the state. We hope to have that contract before you on your next meeting, which is
Wow.
it's the moderators meeting, but it's also / selectmen's meeting, so there'll be some regular business as well. We're just that eager to get it moving, so really excited about that. One of the things we haven't talked about a lot was under human resources staffing was hiring and succession plan, which we continue to work through. As you know, we continue to face different and unexpected personnel issues that we are working to address. But in terms of HR Spotlight, which is kind of highlighting their role, I just wanted to give a huge compliment to our HR director, Robin Tessino. We had an employee health fair last week that I think was very well received. We had a number of vendors from health insurance, dental insurance, our EAP, local businesses who provide health services. Parks and Rec participated, the library participated, and it was just a great experience for people. There were giveaways and prizes, and just to really appreciate her work on that. And I think the employees appreciated it quite a bit. Not only just it was a good opportunity to meet the different vendors, but to get information on what benefits are offered, what employees can take advantage of. So that was great. As Dave mentioned earlier, Chris is getting really close to presenting the municipal aggregation plan. So that'll be coming forward, and we're really excited to kick that off and get that up and running as well. And then I thought I had one more thing, but I think I lost my note. No, I think that was everything that I had. Oh, and then Robin, I don't know if you want to talk about your office hours.
I was going to do it in my update.
Yeah, or either way, it's a goal or an update. Your choice.
Right. So, it's a good segue if you're done into selectmen's updates. So I am trying something different, and a big shout out to Mona who made this happen. But my office hours are Friday, which is tomorrow, and I'm actually going to be at the library. I am going to be sitting in the lobby. They have a science program going on, and I am hoping that as parents drop kids off, they'll stop by and meet me and talk to me. We have a sign made, and it's just a different way to try get out into the community. So I'm looking forward to see if that works or not. With respect to selectmen updates, I kind of did give an update on Warren Committee and the task force. I also met with James Stewart. I think you may remember that James was the citizen sponsor of the 3 versus 5 selectmen article. And we did talk a little bit about the status of that task force and hiring of a consultant. And I did tell him that we appreciated his patience. And after town meeting, we will dust that off and see who is still available on the committee, and maybe and most definitely recharge that committee, because town meeting did authorize the $7,500 for the consultant to kind of look at it. So he understands that we've had quite a few unexpected things occur that have taken, he was very understanding, but we do need to address that because it was something that town meeting voted for. And then both Mike and I met with two citizens that live on Cross Street, and we talked about their concerns regarding safety on Cross Street and the process of picking up and dropping off at the Chickering School. And again, we talked to them about, after town meeting, putting together a task force that would look at it in its entirety. And that task force would include DPW, the police chief, certain residents, so we could really take a holistic approach at looking at the safety concerns that were brought up at the open hearing in March. They were very, very gracious. They understand that there may be limits on what can be done, given that the school is where it's at. The Cross Street is already fully developed, but I think there were enough concerns raised that we really do need to look at the safety issues and see if there are things we can do to alleviate them. And Mike, I don't know if you have anything to add, but all they are looking for is for us, to address the issue and see if there are things that can be done. And they even suggested maybe we prioritize things, especially if there are things that don't require approval of town meeting, maybe just doing some of those things will be enough to alleviate the concerns that the residents have.
Right. The only group that you inadvertently left out was the schools. I think
they were
they're gonna need to
actually
be part of it.
part of that as well, and a big part of it, because we need to coordinate with them. So
Right. Well, it sounds like some of the safety concerns are actually at the school. So,
within the school campus.
right. So it makes a ton of sense to look at this.
Right.
That's common sense. And yeah, I agree. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's great. I'm done, actually.
So the only update that I have has to do with sustainability. My suggestion is that if we could invite them to our next non-very packed meeting, just like we've invited some of the other boards. Anna asked me a question on their charge vis-a-vis water and what we would like them to do via water. So maybe after town meeting, if we could invite Anna and as sustainability to join us at a meeting, and that will give Robin and I a chance to look at their charge again and read through it, and give them their due, because there are some, I'm going to just use the words minor conflict items, for lack of better words, such as who is going to determine the order of the green projects and applying for the same grants? Will it be sustainability, capital budget, selectmen, someone else? And it's a legitimate question. It just needs to be answered. Who's going to actually drive that bus, if you will? And they don't know. And I think it's a fair question.
Don't they have a member of Capital on their committee?
Well, unfortunately, it's the same person who had poor eyesight.
All right, so we need to fix that, because that was the idea, to have, right, okay.
Yep.
Why don't we try, either May 15th or May 29th?
Yeah, I don't want to force it or rush it. I'll leave that to Mike and agenda management. But if we could get them to come in and invite them, I think that would be very beneficial to everyone, to make sure that they know what we would like them to do and they have clear directions. And this is a gung-ho group, man. They want to
Right.
go.
Right.
So
Yeah, so I say either the 15th or maybe the 15th is too close to town meeting. We'll be a little brain dead, so maybe the 29th.
that's what I was thinking is,
Right.
yeah.
No, that sounds great.
So that's like the only update since our last meeting because we've already been through building and all the others, so.
Okay. And so then Mike, item 1.9 is the town administrator updates.
Yeah, so I just had a couple of things that we haven't already touched on. So one is just a reminder that the moderators meeting is Monday, April 28th,
And it's
in person at 6:30 here in the Great Hall. That's right. And again, that's essentially kind of like a dry run to go through the warrant, and so Jim Repetti is prepared for town meeting. Just another reminder, I know I think we talked about this last time, but the planning board will be holding another information session on the MBTA Communities Act. It's going to be next week, April 22nd at 7 p.m. That's via Zoom. So encourage residents to participate in that. The last one was very well received and very well
and they're
done.
doing a great job.
Yeah, no, really, really great. So I think this will be great. And I know they've tweaked a few things. So even if you went to the first one, I'd encourage you to, if you're available, to attend this one as well, because based on the feedback, they have, different information. So I think that'll be terrific. And then lastly, I just wanted to provide an update on the hail conservation restriction. I had a Zoom call the end of last week with Eric Arnold, who's still consulting with hail, and Rob Andrews with the trustees. So they are getting to the very, very final stages of two CRs that are going to, again, be private. They were privately funded, if you will. The first is kind of like the big CR, which covers most of Hale's property. As the second CR is related, but Hale's actually going to be selling, I think it's 130 plus acres to the trustees. It's on the east side of Pwisset Farm. And then the trustees are going to be granting a CR on that land to the Dover Land Conservation Trust. So those have been reviewed by the state. There was some very minor feedback. They're trying to get some of the final language on that. So what's happening next is that the Hale and the trustees will be going before the Conservation Commission, and I believe they're hoping it's a joint meeting with Open Space on April. I didn't write it down. I think it's the 28th. They'll be presenting to them and
That's
looking.
the same time as the moderators meeting.
Then maybe that's not true.
Okay.
Maybe it's the 23rd. I'll have to look.
Okay.
I'm sorry. But they are going to ask that they take a vote to make a recommendation to you, the Board of Selectmen, on those two CRs. And then under state law, even though we're not part of the financial deal, Board of Selectmen do have approval authority on conservation restrictions within Dover. So those will come before you sometime in May for your vote, in theory, of approval. And they're on a bit of a tight timeline because part of some of the funding is grant funding that has to be used by the end of June. So that's why they want to hopefully come before you to one of your May meetings to get this squared away.
So, I mean, as soon as we can get the CR, that would be great. And, I know it's very similar to the one that we had worked on before, but it is a little bit different. So, we really are also going to rely on council to take a look at it.
Absolutely. Yep. And Rob has said as soon as they have the final language back from the state reviewer, they'll get that to us. And exactly, we'll share it immediately with you, and we'll get a copy of council just to see if there's any concerns.
Okay.
Good.
And that's all I have.
All right. So now we're at the final item of business, which is the consent agenda, which consists of a very important item for us. and it's our acceptance and approval and expenditure of $111,000, which is a grant from the Mass Community Compact Cabinet Information Technology Grant Program for online permitting software. And also the approval of the 2025 special one-day liquor licenses for April 25th, 26th, 29th, and May 1st, 3rd, 6th, 7th, 9th, and 17th. There's a special liquor license for Arbor Day. So,
Think it's unrelated. Val's not here anymore, so I'm not sure.
right.
So are you sure? Well, I gotta look at that one. Yeah.
I am not going to get Arbor Day out of my head. So, again, I just have to say thank you to you, Mike and Chris, for getting this grant. It is huge. I mean, I think the online permitting software is really going to be a game changer for us. It's going to solve a lot of transparency issues that we have with the paper system.
It's also going to be great for citizens who wish to
Right,
do anything. They
right,
will have an expedited and very clear way of looking at things.
exactly.
Also, if something's going on at a neighbor, you'll be able to go online and see what's going on and follow along. So no, it's yes, thank you very much.
Right. So I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second,
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
I, Dave Haviland.
All right. And then the last thing on the agenda is to adjourn this meeting. So I'm going to I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Well, okay, I'll second.
All right. All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
I, Dave Haviland.
All right. And I wish everybody a happy marathon day. Concord is expecting like 300,000 or 400,000 people, I think, because it's
Wow.
their 250th
250th.
birthday. Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy. Supposedly they extended an invitation to all presidents that are still alive.
Wow.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm staying away from Concord. I don't know about anybody else. But
that yes, I'll see it next year. So
right. Well, thank you all. I'll see you all tomorrow.
oh, that's
Oh, and
right.
I'm gonna stop by to pick up my sign.
Yes, please do. And you need to sign. And Dave, if you could stop in to sign as well, please.
Absolutely.
Thank
All
you.
right.
So
All
wait,
right.
where was that voice? Did you just hear a voice? I want to see a face behind that
It's
voice.
the voice of reason.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you
Thank
all very
you
much.
all.
Have a great night.